Hey guys, I'm back. One of my good friends, George, was talking to me the other day. He started looking at a couple of the videos I've already placed up, and he asked me. He said, "Dude, you play speed duels. How's come I haven't seen you try one of those yet?" I said, "You know, there's been four little mini deck collections since they released more than one speed duel in a single package, and four boosters." And he's right. So, I wanted to start this off with the first deck that I was playing, which was the Seto Kaiba Dragon Caller deck. And I want to profile it in its original form and show you one other thing that might help you. This deck is a little bit dated. Again, like I said, there's four expansions and four sets of decks that came out already. And this is, I think, a good way to amp up for this fall, this winter's release for the Battle City booster box, booster set, whatever it is. So let's do the normal profile thing here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use the skill card from Seto Kaiba, and we're going to be using Dragon Caller. Then we're going to use 3 copies of the Blue Eyes White Dragon, 3 copies Lord of D, 3 copies Twin-Headed Behemoth, 3 copies Tyrant Dragon. We're going to use a double Stamping Destruction, 3 Flutes of Summoning Dragon, and to round it out, 3 copies of Windstorm of Itaqua. So, a lot easier to profile these, a lot smaller of a deck list. But to understand this deck list, if you're new to speed duels, you need to understand our skill card itself. So the Dragon Caller is a once per duel hard effect. You get one of two effects. One is that if you successfully normal summon the Lord of D, you may add the Flute of Summoning from your deck to your hand, or if you can reveal the Flute of Summoning Dragon from your hand, you can add the Lord of D to your hand. And again, you'll be able to do that once per duel. So we'll just set that over there. Now, we're going to be using 3 Blue Eyes. He's in here strictly for the stat and also because, Kaiba. We are going to have 3 of the Lord of D's because we need this in order to activate the Flute of Summoning Dragon. And of course, that's why we're running the Dragon Caller skill. We want to be able to maximize on being able to correct the opening hand. Because remember, Speed Duels is half the deck. It's 20 cards. It is a third of the extra deck at 5 cards. It's only 3 main zones for spell and trap. You still get your field zone. You still get your deck discard, whatever. There's no duels centers. So unfortunately, I can't pull a card from one of the many games that I play and put that on the field today. It's really like shoot your shot and make your strategy and see whether or not it'll go. But the other effect of Lord of Dragon or Lord of D is that neither player can target a dragon monster on the field with card effects. And that's going to come in handy to protect your big boys like your Blue Eyes and, of course, the Tyrant Dragon. So the Twin-Headed Behemoth is in here just to soak attacks and be your little shield. Now, his effect is also one of those hard once per duel effects. So during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was destroyed on the field and sent to the graveyard, you may special summon it back. Its attack and defense will be 1,000 both. And you have to decide whether or not you're going to use that on that turn. It's not like you can resurrect it later. And if you resurrect it the first time it happens, then every subsequent copy does not have an effect. So that is fine. Tyrant Dragon is kind of unique, and he's in here because of his double attack strategy. So during the battle phase, if your opponent controls a monster after this card's first attack, you can make a second attack. Negate any trap effects that target this card while it's on the field. And again, this takes care of early game effects. If you didn't have your Lord of Dragons or Lord of D, you would be able to sidestep things like, I think Michizure would have targeted you, Spellbinding Circle, and like Kunai with Chain. And so he's going to be immune to those, even though Lord of D would have obviously protected them from these. But he's going to be able to get 2 good attacks in at 29 power, and that's going to clear most boards in the early game when this started, except, again, like Blue Eyes. And we don't have to worry about the last effect. This card, if this card is special summoned from the graveyard, you have to tribute a dragon monster, so that's fine. Stamping Destruction was better in the early game than it is right now because Waking the Dragon is in Speed Duels as well. But this is if you control a dragon monster, target a spell trap on the field, destroy it. If you do, inflict 500 to the controller. It's a good way to get off a little bit of damage. Tunes were sort of big at the beginning. They activate the Toon World, that's 1,000. Stamping Destruct It, that's 15. They're down to 25 already. And then you got to figure the Toons getting destroyed by the effect of Toon World not existing. Blue Eyes is a very strong play. Tyrant Dragon, a very strong play in that moment. And I do know that there is a skill that is Toon World, so maybe it wouldn't be 25. Maybe they'd only be down to 35, but you could still break more board with this in that time period than you might now, especially, again, Waking the Dragons. Blue Eyes Ultimate's a thing in this game. And this deck can't compete with anything over 3,000 power. So, again, you're going to need your 3 Flutes of Summoning for consistency and effect. Again, Lord of D, you can special up to 2. And that's important. I know that this card never really saw play outside of like the first few weeks of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because Lord of D and Flute of Summoning, they were both released in the original Kaiba deck, back in 2002. And then again in the first set of decks. I mean, they released 2 sets of 3 decks back when this started. So, the Dragon Caller really bringing back like the initial Kaiba strategy. It's cool. Now, Windstorm of Itaqua, our last card here. Because this deck did the most work for me early on. I won about 90-95% of my games with this, playing Speed Duel. And like most card games, and again, you guys have seen I've played more than one, they almost always start off with the best deck being the fastest beatdown. And again, something that you learn when you're playing any card game, when one deck is very good, you end up finding something called a mirror match, and you'll end up playing against decks that are similar build to yours. Now, the Windstorm of Itaqua is in here because it does not target. Get out of here, Luna. I love you. Silly cat trying to get into the video. But when you look at the big characters and the fact that you got Lord of D doing his thing, the only one that... See, since it doesn't target, Tyrant Dragon doesn't have any immunity to it. And since it doesn't target, Lord of D can't stop it. If you were facing the same board as your opponent after you change the battle position of all face-up monsters that they control, essentially sitting all of their powerhouses, the thing is, Tyrant Dragon's 29 is able to break its own 2,500 defense, which is the same as the Blue Eyes. So you were able to take out both dragons with a single Tyrant. Lord of D is better endowed with his attack than his defense. He could still break that. And then, of course, the Blue Eyes White Dragon for 3,000 in the direct. The other main thing here was, again, if your opponent was playing smaller monsters because they weren't playing this, but they did generate more than one monster card, Tyrant Dragon was able to take care of multiple characters and ensure that you were going to get over 4,000 points of the direct damage. It's pretty much a glass cannon. It's easy to break your board, but it's also easy for you to just annihilate your opponent in a one-shot. The only other thing I could say about this is I would add an extra deck, even if you can't play it, because you will play a head game with your opponent because they will be thinking, okay, well, he's got extra deck cards. I don't see him playing Polymerization. Maybe I shouldn't break his back row, because if he gets Waking the Dragon, he's got to have Blue Eyes Ultimate or Thousand Eyes Restrict, whatever the situation calls for. And there's no rule against bluffing, guys, so feel free to do that. George, this video is for you. Sorry, guys, my cat interrupted that a little bit. She decided to cry out a little. If you guys like this kind of stuff, go ahead, let me know. If there's any deck that you guys want me to make, if there's anything that you want to see profiled on here, seriously, let me know. I'd love to make the content that you guys would want to see. Just join the conversation, all right? So, until then, you guys have fun, and I'll see you guys later.